Good morning to all of you. Welcome to the National Resource Center, Department of Mass Communication, Tezpur University. I, Dr. Neel Roy, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Education, Tezpur University. In this session, I'd like to talk about innovative pedagogy for modern era. In our previous discussions, we talked about some of the method and techniques which are prevailing at present in 21st century, and also we talked about some of the traditional teaching practices, the practices or the teaching methods which are very effective in the higher education. In this session, I will just initiate some of the innovative practices for modern era. Why this innovative pedagogy? These are known as innovative as because these are very recent, these are very new in the field of teaching learning process. So some of the pedagogical methods I can refer here like blended learning, MOOCs, flipped classroom, flexible and personalized pedagogies, learning through storytelling or narrative based pedagogies, Web 2.0 supported pedagogies, gamification of learning, interactive teaching. Blended learning. Blended learning, also known as hybrid learning, is a method of teaching that integrates technology and digital media with traditional instructor led classroom activities, giving students more flexibility to customize their learning experiences. Blended learning is an education program, formal or non-formal, that combines online digital media with traditional classroom methods. It requires the physical presence of both teacher and students with some element of students' control over time, place, path and space. Blended learning where, as I have said, both the facilities are there, where face-to-face learning as well as online learning experiences. These techniques will integrate both the techniques, face-to-face and online. Means here the teachers are free to use some of the session, some of the topics through face-to-face mode and some of the topics through online learning experiences. Because it often happens that in our regular classes, some of the things can be better taught through face-to-face discussion, where we need students' active participation. Students need to raise the questions where teacher has to give the answer. Sometimes student has to raise the questions, teacher has to give the raise the questions and student has to give the answer. So in this way, interaction mode is also required. But the some of the things where in this blended learning can be done, which are available in the online. YouTube's some of the channels, they have also, ready-made taught, ready-made classes, recorded classes that can also be used in a blended learning techniques. Why implement blended learning? Blended learning allows teachers and schools to address a variety of learning styles with a variation of instructional methods. Here you see in blended learning, we will teach in the classroom in physical mode. This is one of the techniques, and the same thing can be learned through other style also, through online. Blended learning practices in the kindergarten to class 2 level increases student motivation. When we use blended techniques, they will be more motivated. Why? Because they will be free to use their online resources, their the digital resources. Means they will be allowed to do so. And at present, students are more curious to see all these things. And if you can integrate both the things, then one way we can restrict their use of online in positive direction. Otherwise, you can encourage them to explore to some of the best material which are fruitful for them. Blended learning allows for more personalized instruction because it helps the students to see their lessons, to listen their lessons from online or through digital mode, as per their own requirement, as per their own space. In lecture method, what happened in face-to-face method? What happened? Sometimes some of the good students, they feel bored, but moderate students, they may enjoy, and also those who are little bit slow, they may also get difficulties. But if you give the freedom to them, they will be learn the things as per their own space. Blended learning provides opportunities for teachers to use online curriculum for basic information and for extension and review, and class time for higher order thinking activities. Some of the things are very common, some of the things are very complex. Both the things can be learned through the online mode. And sometimes it is very difficult to have a discussion in the online courses. So in such situation, blended techniques will be very helpful. That students will be oriented, students will be knowing the things in advance, and the same things may be discussed in the classroom, where thorough discussion, lot of questions, lot of answers may get in the classroom in regular classes. Blended learning frequently provides a higher level of interaction than commonly experienced in face-to-face courses. Face-to-face courses is restricted because due to lack of times, but in blended learning, the both options are there. You have enough time, you have huge time to explore the thing. The normal things, the usual things can be learned through the online, and the difficult part may be discussed in the regular classes. Then the second techniques may be referred here, and which are now it has taken it has been considered one of the very effective in higher education, that is the MOOCs. MOOCs or massive online open online courses have dominated headlines in the educational spheres for almost 5 years now. And in this MOOCs, the student has the freedom to learn more and more information, more and more areas they can become the specialized, and through MOOCs, this is the opportunity to develop their interdisciplinary knowledge, multidisciplinary knowledge, and better learning can be possible in the MOOCs curriculum. And I think most of the universities, they are offering the courses through MOOCs, and in these MOOCs programs, the best teachers, the expert teachers, they recorded their lessons, they recorded their speech, and these are delivered through the online mode, and this is one of the best techniques. Then the next techniques, that is the flipped classroom. The flipped classroom is a pedagogical model in which the typical lecture and homework elements of a course are reversed. Short video lectures are viewed by students at home before the class session, while in class time is developed to exercise projects or discussion. It's very, very effective in the modern era, because nowadays almost all students, they uses the smartphone, and in the flipped classroom, we can save time, and we can guided them to use the internet or online in proper direction, where in flipped classroom the students will be oriented about the topics which would be discussed in the next class. Meanwhile, students will be little bit aware about the topic. In face-to-face class or in the lecture method, what happened? Students do not know what would be discussed today, and as a result, sometimes students are found to be inactive in the class. But if through flipped classroom, students become oriented about the topics before the class, then they will be more active in the class, more fruitful discussion may be taken in the class. Learning outcomes for a flipped classroom. Measures learning by using a self-paced mobility of delivery, engage students through short videos viewed prior to the class, allow for in-class debate discussion activities. Students can, in this flipped classroom, students can engage themselves in debate or in discussion or in activities, because they will be aware, they will be oriented beforehand. Construct or enhance critical thinking skill by challenging students' inquiry during class. If students become aware about the topics to be discussed in the regular class, their critical thinking ability will be enhanced. Accommodate students' varied schedules and varied learning styles. Students can show their learning style in the flipped classroom. Immediate feedback or essential points, that means taking quizzes and videos would be possible in the flipped classroom. Students reflect on learning activities and gain confidence in what they have learned. In regular classroom, we found that very small group of students, they remain in the classroom. But if flipped classrooms are there, then almost all the students will be active and they will develop their self-confidence to be part in the class. Next, pedagogical techniques in the modern era, that is the flexible and personalized pedagogies. A large portion of learners now own and all over the place use mobile devices like smartphone, tablets and laptops, which they expect to carry along with them into the classroom, both to facilitate learning and to take notes, share materials and access content for their classrooms, assignments and projects. This trend has created new opportunities for educators to use mobile devices for innovative teaching learning practices. Teachers can now be unburdened as content delivers to be effective choreographers of technology enabled networked learners who are connected to diverse success of learning as well as to other learners and their teachers in real time. The use of mobile devices as learning tools has the interesting potential of integrating learning within the class with learning opportunities beyond the classroom. And why these techniques, flexible and personalized pedagogies, you are giving the freedom to use the mobile phone, use their laptops, use their tablets in the classroom as well as outside the classroom, by which what will happen, they can share their materials, they can share their ideas easily with others, with the teachers, and they will be more benefited. Learning through storytelling or narrative based pedagogies, although this is very old techniques, but learning through storytelling has a long and rich history. Narrative pedagogy was used as a common community practices to enable the learners and their teachers to critically consider what was possible and what was problematic within their teaching and practice subjects, providing the participants with an opportunity to listen and consider a variety of viewpoints. Narrative based and storytelling means where every student will get the benefit, every student will get the opportunity to share their ideas, to narrate their topics, to be discussed in the classroom, and we shall develop their critical thinking, we shall develop their analytical thinking also. The next important pedagogical techniques, that is Web 2.0 supported pedagogies. Web 2.0 is an umbrella term for a host of recent internet applications such as social networking, wikis, virtual societies, bloggings, multiplayer, online gaming, and mashups. It also referred as Edu 2.0. Web 2.0 applications are built around the appropriation and sharing of content amongst communities of users, resulting in various forms of user-driven communication, collaboration, content creation, and reaction. Web 2.0 tools are tools of technology that allow teachers and students to create, collaborate, edit, and share content online that is user-generated. This can include tools for presentation, research, collaboration, audio, video, slideshow, image, music, drawing, writing, organizing, mapping, quiz and test generation, file storage and web pages, and also tools for graphing and conversation. The Web 2.0 can be classified as per their uses in different ways. Number one, tools for the creation and support of web-based learning environment, tools for communication and cultivation of relationships, tools for collaboration, tools for student to create content. This is one of the techniques which may be considered as the latest, where student has the ample scope to share their knowledge, to do their creative activities in this Web 2.0, where they can develop their critical thinking, they can develop their creative thinking, all these possibilities are there, and it's very easy to connect with each other, because nowadays most of the students are using social networking, and if we can use it in the classroom, then proper use of social networking would be possible. Otherwise, they will use it for their entertainment purpose. Another techniques of the effective pedagogy in modern era, that is the gamification of learning. Gamification, or the application of gaming techniques, can be a powerful tool for delivering education and training in subjects that require strategic planning, scenario building, stimulating and evaluating alternatives, as well as developing imaginative and creative solutions under defined constraints. As a pedagogy application, games allow the freedom to think outside normal parameters, to add a little bit of fantasy or surrealism, and to force people to think in different ways. Student interactive method, this is one of the very effective teaching methods in higher education. Scott P. Simpkins, expert in pedagogy, tells that students' interactive practices can significantly increase learning in a variety of disciplines. Dr. Simpkins, an expert in pedagogy, participated in the recently in 2014 held an international meet on transactional evaluation organized by the Kerala State Higher Education Council. During his week-long stay in Kerala, he took part in programs organized by Mahatma Gandhi University and the Cochin University of Science and Technology. Dr. Simpkins said his belief and experience, along with published research works on the new teaching techniques suggested that adopting more student interactive practices could significantly increase students' learning in a variety of disciplines. Interactive teaching is also beneficial for you as the teacher in a number of ways, such as measurable students' accomplishment. Teachers making use of interactive teaching style are better equipped to assess how well students master a given subject material. Flexibility in teaching, applying training methods that innovate two-way communication will enable you to make quick adjustment in process and approaches. Practice makes perfect. Interactive interaction enhances the learning process. Student motivation, two-way teaching dispels students passively, and when more students are engaged, you will have much more fun too. Applying interactive education, students often lose interest during lecture style teaching. Interactive teaching style promotes an atmosphere of attention and participation. The ARMA International Center for Education offers the following guidelines to express the focus of interactive educational teaching style, such as it encourages students' participation, use questions that stimulates response, discussion and hands-on experiences, use teaching aids that praise for answers and captures and hold the students' attention, set up a work group environment, involve yourself as well as students. Interactive teaching style that make a differences. There are a lot of techniques are there through which we can make the class interactive, such as brainstorming. Interacting brainstorming is typically performed in group session. The process is useful for generating creative thoughts and ideas. Brainstorming helps students learn to pull together. Types of interaction brainstorming includes structured and unstructured. There may be structured brainstorming, there may be unstructured brainstorming. Then reverse and negative thinking, both is possible in brainstorming. Nominal group relationships, online interactions such as chat, forums and email, team idea mapping, group passing, individual brainstorming. Individual level also brainstorming may be done. Another interactive techniques like think, pair and share. Establish a problem or a question, then pair your students. Give each pair sufficient time to form a conclusion and permit each participant to define the conclusion in his or her personal voices. You can also request that one student explain a concept while other students evaluate what is being learned. Apply different variations of the process. Your students will be engaged, communicating and retaining more information before your eyes. Buzz session. Participants come together in this session groups that focus on a single topics. Within each group, every student contributes thoughts and ideas. Here, students are encouraged in discussion and collaboration among the students within each group. Everyone should learn from one another inputs and expression. Another techniques which might be very effective in modern era, that is the incident process. This teaching style involves a case study format, but the process is not so rigid as a full case study training session. The focus is on learning how to solve real problems that involve real people, preparing your students for life beyond your classroom. Provide small groups of students with details from actual incidents and then ask them to develop a workable solution. Question answer session, that is very common on the heel of every topic's introduction, but prior to formal lecturing, ask your students to jot down questions pertaining to the subject matter on 3 to 5 index cards. After you collect the cards, mix them up and read and answer the students' generated questions. The another techniques I'd like to mention here, that would be waste, that is the teaching with sense of humor. This is not the new techniques, rather it is very old and it is very effective all the times. Laughter is a natural universal phenomena with beneficial effects, both physical and psychological. Everyone loves a teacher with an infectious sense of humor. It helps cordial relationships. It helps. It also able to relax the people, and it can reduce the tension in the classroom. When there is a willingness to change, there is a hope for progress in any field. Student enjoys humor in forms of funny, So this may be one of the best techniques, and every teachers can follow it. Whenever you are discussing some serious issues in the classroom, in between you can just bring some of the things, some of the facts, which may give the humor, to the students. In 2015, a report has been published by SRI International and Open University, and in that university they have published certain techniques in 2015, and those techniques might be very effective in our teaching learning process. So some of the innovative techniques they have suggested, such as crossover learning in informal setting such as museums or meetups. Such settings can spark further interest and motivation to learn. Then learning through argumentation, learning by establishing and refuting claims in ways similar to professional scientists and mathematicians. Incidental learning, unplanned or unintentional learning that contributes to longer term learning parts, often via technology, especially mobile. Context based learning, learning from experience by interpreting new information and relating it to what we already know. For example, students interacting with surroundings other than a lecture hall that relate to the given topic. Then learning by doing, learning with authentic tools and practices. The traditional example is the science laboratory. New technology enabled examples have emerged involving remote labs and adaptive simulation. Embodied learning that involves self-awareness of the body interacting with the real or simulated world in a way that the mind and body works together to that physical feedback and action reinforce the learning process. Think interactive surface with multi-touch screens or wearable devices like Google Class. Another techniques, adaptive teaching, use data about specific learners' previous learning to create personalized paths. Analytic of emotions, understanding students' mindsets in cognitive and non-cognitive aspects, including frustration, distraction, even eye tracking. Teaching rule in learning. what is the role of teaching, and I hope the teacher should know what is the role of teaching in learning. Unless we know the learning process of the learner, then perhaps we won't be able to effective in our teaching. There are certain rules placed by teaching, such as giving feedback to learner. So whenever we will teach something to the class, we should give the feedback to the learner. Means to give the feedback to the learner, we must also know the learning of the students, what happened in the class. Helping learners become better learner. So how can we make the learner as a better learner? When we will give some of the better example, the utility of the courses, the utility of the topics in our present life, in our future life, they will be the better learner. Focusing on motivation, the teacher has to be very much focused how to create motivation in the class. It's not that at the beginning level the teacher will create motivation and the motivation will sustain the entire class. The motivation will not sustain to the entire class, so teacher has to create motivation in between also. Comparing deep and surface learning, teacher has to give, or teacher has to focus, teacher has to highlight to some of the topic which are more important, the points which are more important, which has long lasting impact in our life, that has to be focused, which may give the deep learning of the student. Experiential learning, teacher has to give emphasis on the students on experiential learning. Students should be involved wherever whatever topics are discussed, whatever topics is delivered, whatever concepts, whatever the ideas, the issues are given to the students. The teacher has to be very much conscious that student has to be very active so that they can experience through their personal activities. They should be experiential. Then that will retain in the student's mind. Looking at the learning process, that teacher has to be very much conscious also the learning style of the learner. That what is the learning style? Learning style again depends on the level of the students. It varies from the level of the students. Primary level students, secondary level students, higher secondary level students, higher level students, all the students, their learning styles are different. The teachers must know the learning style of the students. If they know the learning style of the students, then they can make them better learner. Looking at learning style, then as a 21st century teachers or the modern era teachers, some of the challenges we have. So I'd like to mention some of the challenges for our future. Number one, the need to develop an understanding of holistic learning, that is intellectual, social and emotional component, and it's very big challenges for us to make them holistic learning. Holistic learning refers which will includes intellectual, social and emotional components. Means through our discussion, through our lesson, the students should get the benefit to all the three aspects. The second challenges of the teachers at the present era, that is the internationalization of education. We often talked about the internationalization of education, and when we talked about internationalization of education, at the same time our focus in the classroom should be internationalized, so that the students would be they will internationalization refers that students would be suitable for the entire globe. It's not that they will be fit for the institution or only they will be fit for the state or the nation, rather their main focus should be the entire globe. So in that level our teaching should be. Then greater emphasis on self-directed learning. In modern era, or you can say at the age of internet, our teaching should be little bit self-directed. We should encourage the students self-directed learning, self-directed, and also students will love to self-directed learning. And it's a big challenge for us that how can we make them self-directed. When we'll make them self-directed, it's the biggest challenge for the teachers, because teacher has to know all the pros and cons of the self-directed learning. Greater understanding of diversity in higher education and its impact on approaches to teaching and learning. Then focus on classroom research, that is the action research, to gain a greater understanding of learning strategies. Another challenge is more research needed in learning style, because very less number of researches has been carried out, especially in higher education. Learning style, lot of researches has been carried out in the primary level and secondary level to know about the learning style, but very less number of researches has been carried out in the higher level. Another challenge is enhanced understanding of collaborative learning. Although I have mentioned already that collaborative learning, collaborative teaching should be there in the institution level. So it's a big challenge is how to collaborate, our teaching in the institution. Higher education management must become more aware and accept the needs of enhanced learning and teaching. Increased use of technology, day by day technologies are being increased, and as soon as technologies are being increased, our challenges are also being increased. And so these are the challenges, and teacher has to keep in mind all these challenges, and if we can keep in mind, or if we can be aware all these challenges or all these techniques which I have already discussed, then the teacher should be effective in their class, in their institution. So with this I'd like to conclude. Thank you.